Welcome to the show. Welcome to Your Thought Life podcast. I am your host, Michael Anderson. Today we're talking about 'tis the season to slow down and reflect. And let's start today's talk with a warm and an inviting tone that will help you to really get into your mind and into your heart in such a way that you will be able to truly dissect how it is that we can have the absolute best possible year. This is a special holiday season episode as we're preparing to enter into Christmas. We're also preparing to enter into the new year. This is a great opportunity for us to just take some time to pause and reflect and to set intentions for the year ahead. I'm talking with a lot of people. What they're saying predominantly across all of the folk that I'm speaking with is that they don't want to do this next year like they've done this year. They want to do something a wee bit different. They want to change up the storyline and the narrative. Today we're going to discuss why year end is the ideal moment, literally to slow down, celebrate those wins, recalibrate, and really think about what is it that we want to see different and what are some of the outcomes we want to enjoy in this year that is right before us. Why the end of the year is the best time to reflect was one of our key lead-ins. Well, it's a natural time for us to sort of just take a look at what's coming up. And by the very nature of it being Christmas and end of the year, is just synonymous with also taking a retrospective look back to see and to appreciate everything that we have done. It also serves as a phenomenal marker to take a retrospective look at those things which we want to come up a little bit higher in for the new year. And most people take time off work and the pace of life slows down right about now. And it just makes easier for us to look forward and to look ahead. The year end marks a natural transition point. It's symbolic for a lot of people because it's like finishing a chapter in a book. When December 31st comes in and we celebrate the new year, it's out with the former year, and now it's time for us to be on point and to be real intentional about those goals, those objectives, and those outcomes we have for the new year. And it's easier this time of the year for us to just evaluate things because of the pace and because of all of the festive times and so forth. But I want you to also know that there should be a collective focus on renewal, what some people will refer to as resolutions. Generally speaking, this is the time, 45 to, the research varies, but somewhere between 60 and 30 days, we should be starting to put in place the habits, the processes, the procedures, start to habit stack about that time so that when we get to the next year, we're already emotionally engaged. We have already started to lay the foundation and the groundwork for that which we want to do differently. I don't have a problem with resolutions if they're done correctly, but so often people don't do resolutions correctly and they don't get the outcomes that they want, and it starts to eat away at the beginning of the year and it starts to feel like a failure. And that is not the setup that I want from you. Thus, I pointed out, then also want to share a little bit of science with you. Science says that reflection strengthens neutral pathways, and this helps you to process experiences more deeply. What's the big idea there? Well, it's all in how we turn actions into lessons and lessons into wisdom. If you know like I know, if you want to do life from a position of love, joy, and peace and contentment, wisdom is at the absolute epicenter of that strategy. As I've shared this with other people ahead of making the podcast episode, they're like, Mike, what should I be reflecting on when I have this quiet time to myself? I think that's a fantastic question. I start out with what went well during the year. What are the things that you said you were going to do that you actually did? What were the things that popped up that you didn't know were going to pop up and you negotiated them incredibly well? Look at all of the areas where you're serving. Or how are you serving at work? How are you serving in your home? How are you serving in your friendship? How are you serving in your church? How are you serving in whatever clubs or memberships that you have? If you can see where you have been able to enrich the lives of others, those things are noteworthy and should be celebrated and recorded in your journal for such a time as you need to reflect back to get encouragement to get through a situation that may be before you. And naturally, as I shared in the opening, this is also a time for you to take a closer look at things that you want to come up a little higher or improve upon. I like to identify challenges or areas where I didn't actually do as well as I would have liked to, where I might need to learn a little bit more, where I may need some additional practice, or in some cases where I may need to partner with someone who's already been there and done that and can help me get there that much faster. This isn't about self-criticism by any stretch of the imagination, and it is not a time to turn on yourself and become extra critical. We're merely talking about learning, as we've noted above. We're going to learn from the things that we face, and learning from these lessons, we're able to harbor wisdom and how to do it better the next time. Ask yourself, what's one thing that I can do differently this year? Or if you're an overachiever, ask yourself, what are 3 things that I can do differently this next year? Another thing you may consider also is, how can I stay focused on improving year over year how I show up in the world, how I show up for my family, how I show up in my finances, how I show up in my personal endeavors, and how focused I am with my goals, dreams, and aspirations. Think about systems and habits and routines. These things are inevitable for the person who would be moving in a new direction toward outcomes that they might not have had the previous year. This again is all about growth. Maybe it's being more intentional with your time. Maybe it's seeking some deeper relationships, or again, learning some new skills. You do the math, you do the research, and you determine what it is that you really want to go after, and in earnest, go after it. One of the things that I have pointed out in my own introspective look is that slowing down throughout the course of the year, not just at the end of the year, has some significant benefits. One of which is this entire year in all of my speaking engagements, for the most part, have been talking about burnout and mental health. And what I have found is that taking time away from all of the activities that demand so much of me on a regular basis is a phenomenal recipe to prevent burnout. Just sort of rushing from one year to the next without reflection and 1 month to the next without slowing down is a fantastic recipe to remain sort of scattered, kind of undisciplined, and off your A game. When you slow down, you have an opportunity to reflect. You have an opportunity to think through things that are going on and tweak the recipe, if you will, and to change up or pivot if necessary so that you get the absolute best outcome possible with the least amount of emotional energy expended. Taking time to slow down, it just replenishes the body and the mind and the soul, all of which are necessary for you to retain a sharp focus. Clarity breeds action. When you take time to think deeply about your next steps, you create a roadmap that's both actionable and inspiring. There will be times when you'll need to be able to point back to something that's really important to you. We refer to this sometime as your why. And when you can get really clear on why it is you're going after this goal with the reflection that we've recommended already, then when times get tough and when that inner critic starts to pop in and starts to pop off and say a whole bunch of stuff to discourage you, then you've got something to speak back with that is far more powerful than what that inner voice and that inner critic is saying. The power of intention cannot be overlooked, family. Setting intentions at year end isn't just about productivity. I mean, it's important, don't get me wrong, but it's also about aligning your actions with your values. And this is a fantastic setup for fulfilling the year ahead. This was intended for you to have just sort of a quick, down and dirty way of assessing where you are. It's really important to note that this is the season to slow down and reflect, to think about the things that are important to you, to your family, to your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. Give yourself the gift of slowing down. Take the time to celebrate your progress, acknowledge your growth areas, and commit to a focused and intentional new year. One that will be filled with all sorts of cool things where you stretched yourself and went outside of your comfort zone. You stayed focused. You took large tasks and broke those down into measurable, manageable pieces that you could bite off and chew. Then at the end of the day, I just want you to be reflective of this idea. And that is, when you're looking back, you're not looking back from the standpoint of judgment and criticism. You're not doing that. You're looking back for lessons learned, how you can move forward with taking those lessons and turning those lessons into wisdom. And that wisdom will take you further, faster than you can imagine, and will certainly set you up for the success that you desire and deserve. I want to thank you for joining me today for this episode. It was truly a pleasure to take this time to speak with you. We appreciate your time listening. Feel free to connect with us on Linktree. The link is available in the show notes. I want you to know that you are enough. You can do it, and you are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. Until next time, take care and keep pressing forward.